The world rises, breaking the heavens. Rock and ice meet in an eternal embrace, and the snow falls, a silent white blanket. The valleys are hidden in deep mist. The icy wind carves sharp peaks, and silence becomes the dominant sound. The glaciers groan, witnesses of time. Clouds cling to the icy peaks, and the stars seem to touch the earth. This is the Himalayas, a realm forged by heights, a place where life struggles in the most extreme circumstances. Here, wildlife flourishes amidst the cold and scarcity, facing the greatest challenges. Musk deer walk cautiously through the coniferous forests. Wild yaks defy blizzards with their strength and dense fur. Meanwhile, Himalayan vultures hover over the peaks, looking for their next carcass. In this wild world, climate and terrain conspire to threaten life. Golden langur monkeys hop between branches, surveying the vast landscape. Blue goats climb the cliffs, demonstrating an impossible balance. And the Himalayan pika hides among the rocks, searching for roots and shoots. Here, life flourishes on the thin line between existence and death. The hill gorals drink from the icy streams that wind through the mountains. Apollo butterflies with white wings and red eyes flutter above the alpine flowers, and Himalayan marmots peek out of their burrows, ready to flee at the first sign of danger. On this immense canvas of rock and ice, every day is a battle for survival. But the toughest fight is not against the cold, but against the lurking shadows. The law of nature is simple and brutal. Here, only the strongest survive, and the hunger of some defines the tragedy of others. From the deep shadows of the mountain range, a silent figure lurks. The legendary snow leopard, a ghostly beast, moves with the grace of a spirit. With a lightning leap, its powerful claws sink into its prey, and life fades into the icy stillness. Further down in the evergreen forests, another predator lumbers. The Asiatic black bear, a robust and powerful inhabitant, forages among roots and fallen wood. With its tremendous strength, it could fell a tree if necessary. In the most remote valleys, the fury of an even larger predator is unleashed. The majestic Bengal tiger, a force of nature. His roar shakes the earth, and his hunger-filled gaze freezes the heart of his prey. Its attack is a flurry of claws and fangs, and life vanishes in an instant. This is the Himalayas, a kingdom ruled by the brutality of its predators. Located between the borders of Pakistan, India, China, Bhutan, and Nepal, the immense Himalayan mountain range rises like a natural wall. Its peaks, such as the imposing Everest, which reaches 8,800 meters in height, are home to a mosaic of biomes where altitude determines everything. But Everest is not the only one of these giants. The Himalayas are home to a total of 10 of the world's 14 highest peaks, with other legendary names including Kanchenjunga, Lhotse, and Makalu. Although the Himalayas are known as an arid place where ice and low temperatures prevail, the reality is very different. The mountain range is a fascinating mosaic of biomes that changes dramatically with every meter of altitude. At the base of the mountains, in the lower lands, dense subtropical forests thrive, a world of lush life with towering trees and wild vegetation. Here, rivers meander through flora that provides refuge for species such as red pandas, which feed on bamboo shoots, and golden langur monkeys, which leap nimbly through the treetops. As you ascend, the ecosystem transforms. Subtropical forests give way to coniferous and rhododendron forests, with trees reaching tens of meters in height. In these areas, the canopy forms a roof that protects species such as musk deer, which walk cautiously through the dense vegetation, and hill goral, which climb the rocky slopes with impressive agility. Finally, in the higher altitudes, oxygen becomes scarce, and vegetation disappears completely. Life struggles against extreme cold and icy winds. Above 5,500 meters, the landscape transforms into a realm of permanent ice and bare rock, where only the strongest manage to survive. In this harsh environment, wild yaks brave blizzards with their strength and thick fur, while majestic Himalayan vultures soar above the peaks, scanning the vast landscape for carrion. Although temperatures at this altitude are eternally freezing, the thermometer in this wild empire undergoes incredible fluctuations that pose a constant challenge to life. The Himalayan climate is as varied as its ecosystems, changing dramatically with every meter of altitude. On the highest peaks, where ice and rock dominate, temperatures easily exceed freezing, sometimes reaching -40 degrees. However, at the base of the mountain range, in the subtropical valleys, the climate is completely different, with temperatures that can reach 30 degrees Celsius or even exceed it. This extreme variation creates an unpredictable environment, where survival depends on constant adaptation. In contrast to the inert peaks thousands of meters high, the lower strata of this vertical ecosystem are home to countless wild species. Far from being a sterile place, the Himalayas are a true paradise of biodiversity. This mountain range is home to an astonishing wealth of wildlife. Nearly 300 species of mammals, such as the imposing black bear and the elusive musk deer. Nearly 1,000 species of birds, including the colorful monal pheasant and the ptarmigan. Around 170 species of reptiles, such as the Himalayan viper, which lives at astonishing altitudes, and more than 100 types of amphibians. In every corner of this vast ecosystem, life has found a way to thrive, adapting perfectly to each microclimate forged by the heights. From creatures that cautiously walk through the forest to birds that soar through the skies in search of food, the Himalayas are a sanctuary for wildlife. Even on those inhospitable slopes where oxygen is scarce and silence is the only companion, majestic wild creatures have forged a kingdom. It is in this desolate paradise that an all-powerful predator, willing to do anything to satisfy his appetite, has made his home. With a stealthy gait that defies the noise of the wind, the snow leopard makes its appearance on the scene, a ghost moving between rock and snow. With a length exceeding 1 meter and a weight that can reach 55 kilograms, this feline stands out as an imposing beast. In a remote habitat where the thermometer easily drops below freezing, the striking snow leopard not only endures, but prevails as a sub-zero survival specialist. Its fur is its first line of defense, a dense layer of pale gray hair dotted with dark rosettes that acts as an ideal camouflage, and as a thick, natural coat that protects it from the harsh cold. Its long, bushy tail, almost a meter long, not only gives it impeccable balance when walking along the steep cliffs, but also serves as a blanket that the feline wraps around its body for warmth. Its nose, disproportionately large for its size, is another of its best tools, warming the icy air before it reaches its lungs. In addition, the thick pads on its paws allow it to move with surprising ease over snow and rocks. Traversing a vast territory that extends over more than 100 square kilometers, this high-altitude killer walks in search of defenseless prey with which to satisfy its appetite. Like any good carnivore, its diet is based on species found in its inhospitable ecosystem, such as Himalayan blue goats, argalis, and deer. However, in such a hostile environment, this feline does not turn down somewhat less substantial prey such as marmots and hares if the opportunity arises. Snow leopard hunting is a spectacle of patience and brute strength. The predator lies in wait, motionless for hours, camouflaged among the snow and rocks, waiting for the perfect moment. Without its prey noticing its presence, the feline attacks in a surprise attack. Even as his hunting targets try to escape, with a breathtaking leap, this lethal hunter catches up with them. accomplishing the inevitable. With its claws, which act like sharp hooks, it clings to the body of its prey, while its powerful jaw closes in a fatal bite on the neck. After the attack, this mammal consumes its victim with avidity. The predator needs to eat about 20 kilos of meat a week to survive, so it often spends several days feeding on a single prey. When their ambition has overcome their appetite, and they leave behind remnants of their food, hiding them among vegetation or covering them with snow to protect them from other scavengers, and returning later to finish their feast, in a habitat as hostile as the Himalayas, nothing goes to waste. In addition to hunting, the snow leopard patrols its vast range to prevent intrusions by other members of its family. Despite the terrifying appearance of this beast, from which one might only expect a roar that echoes for miles in the Himalayas, the truth is that this feline does not roar. Its call is a low, high-pitched growl rarely heard in the mountains. But the life of this predator is not limited to hunting. While males spend their time patrolling and marking their vast territories, females take care of the crucial task of parenting. After a gestation period of just over 3 months, the mother gives birth to a litter of 2 to 3 cubs, whom she raises and protects in the solitude of her den. For the first few weeks, the young are helpless, but they grow rapidly. At around 3 months old, they begin to follow their mothers around to learn essential survival skills, from cliff climbing to hunting. The cubs will remain with the female until they are between 1.5 and 2 years old, at which point they become independent and begin their own solitary life in the mountains. But there's still a long way to go. For the moment, these little ones are under the care of their loving mother. In addition to educating them, she must protect them from the dangers lurking in the unforgiving Himalayan ecosystem. Even for those who will become vicious predators in the future, childhood is full of threats. While a robust adult snow leopard lacks natural enemies in its habitat, its young cubs are not exempt from falling prey in the food chain. High above, where the air is thick and the sun is harsh, the golden eagle soars through the skies in search of an opportunity. This majestic aerial predator might swoop down to claim the life of a careless pup. However, this eagle knows the power of the mother. The female snow leopard, seeing her cubs in danger, transforms into a fierce protector. His fury is fearsome, and his protective instinct is unbreakable. With a threatening growl and its claws bared, it will scare away any intruder who dares to threaten the lives of its offspring. So every day is a battle. The mother must not only hunt to feed her family, but also be constantly alert, protecting her young until they are strong enough to fend for themselves. Their role is crucial to ensuring the survival of the next generation of mountain ghosts. A few kilometers from the home of the wild snow leopard, a winged king stands on the rugged cliffs, watching everything from a distance. It is not a feline or a land hunter, but the bearded vulture, the enigmatic largest bird of the Himalayas. With its wings spread nearly 3 meters, this imposing bird dominates the heights with its aerodynamic silhouette and plumage that combines gray tones on the wings with a reddish cream color on the belly. Its head, with a crest of feathers, and its neck adorn an unmistakable, robust, and curved beak. This majestic bird is dyed on purpose. In a unique ritual, he searches for iron oxide deposits on the mountain slopes, in the red earth pools. Patiently, it rolls in the mud, coating its pale plumage and turning it a dark orange hue. This coloration helps it blend in better with rocks and the sunset sky, but it is also a status display. The redder the color, the more dominant and healthy the bird is considered. Taking advantage of the powerful air currents that form on the peaks, the bearded vulture glides with imposing grace. It patrols the skies in search of food and can cover distances of more than 200 kilometers in a single day, making it the dominant bird in the Himalayan airspace. It is not its size that makes it fearsome, but its peculiar diet. This scavenger, unlike other vultures that consume the flesh of dead animals, is a specialist in swallowing bones. Their diet is based on the remains of large ungulates, such as wild yaks, musk deer, and Himalayan blue goats, victims of the mountain range's hectic wildlife. The bearded vulture often follows large predators, such as the snow leopard, patiently waiting for them to finish their feast so they can enjoy the remains. This scavenger's method is as ingenious as it is brutal. The bearded vulture patiently waits for other scavengers, such as common vultures and foxes, to finish off the meat from a carcass. Once stripped bare, this imposing bird descends in search of its true feast. When it finds a bone too big to swallow, it grabs it with its claws and soars to great heights. Once in the air, he releases it, letting it fall against the sharp rocks on the ground. With astonishing precision, the bone breaks into smaller pieces, allowing the bird to descend to finish its feast, feeding on the marrow, a highly nutritious food that other animals cannot reach. While these birds manage to digest this peculiar food without any problem, other species simply would not tolerate such food. The key to this feat lies in its digestive system, which has an extreme acidity capable of processing bones in their entirety. This makes the bearded vulture the only known vertebrate that feeds almost exclusively on bones. This imposing solitary bird only joins its peers during the mating season, when the cold is less severe. While other bird species disperse, seeking where to spread their offspring, bearded vultures are monogamous and form lifelong pair bonds. Together, they engage in majestic nuptial flights, while emitting soft vocalizations that are a far cry from the cries of other vultures. On a clifftop or in an inaccessible cave, the pair unites. Copulation is a quick and crucial moment, a decisive step in the reproduction of the species. The couple builds their nest like a real fortress, a huge structure made of branches, wool, and bones. Inside, the female incubates 1 or 2 clutches per season, each with 1 or 2 eggs. At those heights where the air is thick and the rock walls rise for miles, the bearded vulture's nest is a true fortress. However, even in this impenetrable refuge, they are not exempt from threats. Other winged species, such as the majestic golden eagles, soar through the skies in search of opportunity. A sneak attack could mean the end of a defenseless egg or chick. Therefore, both parents, fiercely vigilant, take turns protecting the nest. Their dedication is unwavering, a constant defense that demonstrates the vulnerability of life, even in such a well-protected nest. Once the chick hatches, a new stage in the life of the bearded vulture family begins. During the first few weeks, the chick is completely dependent on its parents. They feed him a special diet, regurgitated bone pulp, a nutrient-rich substance that facilitates the baby's development. This food, pre-digested by the parents, provides the necessary energy to grow. As the weeks pass, the chicks, covered in white down, grow rapidly, and their appetite becomes insatiable. The father and mother work tirelessly, hunting and breaking bones to feed their young. By the 8th week of life, the chick is large enough to swallow smaller pieces of bones offered by its parents. Although the young bearded vulture has taken its first steps outside the nest and has even taken flight, it will take between 5 and 7 years until it is able to form its own family, seeking a mate and settling on one of the thousands of cliffs that dominate the horizon. But their patience is one of their virtues, as these birds can live up to 50 years in the wild, making them one of the longest-lived inhabitants of the Himalayas. Throughout its long life, this formidable winged carnivore will continue to soar through the skies, using air currents to glide gracefully over valleys, and of course, raiding those fresh carrion carcasses. Precisely, one of those corpses devoured, literally to the bone, may be a majestic goat that has on its shoulders the not at all coveted honor of being the favorite prey of the bloodthirsty snow leopard. Walking slowly across the rugged terrain comes the Himalayan blue goat, also known as the baral, a robust mammal about 1.5 meters long and weighing up to 120 kilograms. Although this mammal occupies a crucial position in the food chain, being the favorite victim of the cruelest predators in the ecosystem, this goat, it is much more than just a dam, representing a further reminder that animal life in the Himalayas comes in many forms, all of them amazing. With a unique appearance, the coat of the Himalayan blue goat doesn't quite live up to its name, as it is more of a slate gray. Of course, like any good inhabitant of the icy altitudes, nature has provided the Himalayan blue goat with a natural coat, having a dense coat. Although what most characterizes this species are its large horns, which can measure up to 80 centimeters, and with a peculiar shape backward and to the sides, only the males have this presentation. Females also have horns, but they are straighter and shorter in comparison. Another important difference between males and females of the species is their size, as rams are much more robust, while ewes usually weigh half as much. Although this species of goat might give the image of a solitary prey fleeing in terror from the snow leopard, the truth is that this majestic animal is quite social and usually lives in herds of up to 400 individuals. Most of the time, these herds live together peacefully, spending their days roaming the grassy mountain slopes in search of food, all without leaving their territory, as they are not migratory animals. The diet of Himalayan blue goats includes mainly grass, lichens, mosses, herbs, and alpine furs. When food is abundant in their corner of the mountain, the herds usually grow very large and live together in harmony. In fact, living in a herd allows them to feed more carefreely, because while some goats graze, the others remain alert, watching the horizon, alert for even the slightest sign of danger. At this time of year when food becomes scarce and weather conditions become less merciful, the baral adapts its appetite to survive on small shoots, limiting its nutritional requirements in a demonstration of its irreverence in the face of the hostilities of its habitat. However, despite this coping mechanism, when things aren't going well, members of the flock often distance themselves, and violent altercations often occur between them. At these moments, the males demonstrate that their impressive horns are not just decoration and begin to use them as weapons, goring and ramming each other. Typically, altercations between rams arise from their attempts to establish dominance and territorial rights. These cuckolds see violence as the only way to determine who gets the best pastures, as well as to choose the leader of the herd. Using their terrifying antlers as weapons, each ungulate charges with all its might at its rival in an attempt to subdue it to its will. These fights can last for hours when equally formidable opponents face each other, and they do not end until one decides, against his will, to withdraw, overcome by fatigue. Although these dominance duels are fought without the slightest sense of mercy, the horns of these goats absorb most of these blows, so fatal injuries are very rare. Another moment when the peace of the mountain range is interrupted by the sound of horns clashing with a thunderous roar that resonates among the mountains is when the long-awaited breeding season arrives. when the males abandon their solitary lives to congregate with flocks of sheep and their young, while the rams resolve their conflicts in a far from peaceful manner, through thunderous attacks, the females, which do not have these sharp-bladed weapons on their heads, choose to use their powerful bite as a display of aggression. When members of a herd disperse due to food shortages, they often wander alone across the foothills of the Himalayas. Here, they are easy prey for the absolute king of the mountain, an occupant of the top of the food chain, the ferocious snow leopard. In a silent ambush, the feline attacks an unsuspecting goat, sinking its claws in with a lightning leap. But the Himalayan blue goat is not a defenseless animal. Thanks to its extremely developed hearing, it is able to detect the slightest sound from a predator. Once one of its pack members perceives the leopard's presence, it gives a warning signal, alerting the others to flee to safety. If the herd is surprised, the retreat becomes an impressive spectacle. This ungulate is a master climber, moving with surprising agility along cliffs that would be deadly for any other animal. In addition to these honorable escapes, sometimes, when a blue goat detects a potential threat, it has a very peculiar way of dealing with its problems, remaining motionless. The similarity of the rocky landscape to the fur of these goats is no coincidence. Millions of years of evolution have helped perfect this technique for evading predators. If this doesn't work, there's always the option of running a few dozen meters between the cliffs, and repeating this passive, but sometimes effective strategy. When on the other hand, this yields good results, it is a good day, because they have escaped the eyes of death, personified by the untamed feline. If not, they've become dinner for this imposing feline, and who knows? Perhaps some bearded vultures are already on their way to join the feast. If, instead of a defenseless sheep, the besieged goat is faced with an imposing buck, the buck, seeing his chances of survival limited, will not hesitate, and will use his terrifying horns for what they are made for, charging at the predator, trying to push it straight into one of the abysmal cliffs. As the blue goats defy death on the highest cliffs, their lives become intertwined with those of other inhabitants of the mountain range. Far from the icy peaks, where survival is measured by rocks and chasms, an imposing creature reigns in the dense coniferous forests. The Himalayan black bear, with its jet black fur and distinctive white V-shaped marking on its chest, is an unwavering monarch who has carved out his dominance in the lower, greener realms. With a wide body and an elongated snout that distinguishes it from the rest of its species, this robust mammal is a powerful inhabitant of the lower areas of the mountain range. Its weight, which can exceed 150 kilograms, and a height of almost 2 meters when standing on its hind legs, make it a huge colossus next to other tiny creatures that inhabit this vast ecosystem. Using its long, curved claws as climbing tools, there is no place in the entire forest that cannot be traversed by this animal. This climber's skill allows him to seek refuge high in the trees or surprise his next prey from the thickest branches. The Himalayan black bear is an inhabitant of the lower, richer forest areas of the range, preferring the protection and food offered by dense coniferous and rhododendron forests. Here, among the thick fog and lush vegetation, this omnivore spends its days. In addition to its constant search for food, this monarch of the forest occasionally invests its time in other activities. Those cozy spots nestled in the darkness of hollow logs, deep within hidden caves, or under the protection of massive boulders, are perfect for resting away from the prying eyes and hustle and bustle that can sometimes reign in the forest. While the bearded vulture feeds on the bones of victims of the hectic life of the Himalayas, and the blue goat devours reeds and grasses, the voracious black bear shows no preference, swallowing everything in its path. Its diet is a reflection of this adaptability, as this black beast makes no excuses when it comes to satisfying its appetite. Relying on its prodigious sense of smell, the Himalayan black bear unearths bulbs and roots with its powerful claws. With its enormous strength, it tears down rotten trunks to devour termites and grubs. But its appetite is insatiable, and it also consumes berries, nuts, and honey from the honeycombs it finds in the trees. Precisely, his infallible sense of smell leads him to a new discovery. After sensing the exquisite smell of carrion, the bear approaches a trail of what appears to be a copious feast, ready to devour several kilos of meat in one sitting. However, sometimes his trail leads him to a rather unpleasant surprise. Spotting a gigantic figure in the shadows, the bear realizes that the reward is not without an owner. Encounters between Himalayan black bears and the formidable Bengal tiger are common around these fresh carcasses. The air fills with tension as the two predators recognize each other. Far from launching into direct combat, the confrontation begins with a battle of intimidation. The tiger arches its back and lets out a guttural roar, while the bear rears up on its hind legs and growls furiously, displaying its imposing size and fearsome claws. In these duels, there are no rules. If threatening gestures are not enough, combat is inevitable. With a deafening roar, the bear lunges with the force of a hurricane, attempting to strike with swipes that could uproot a tree trunk in a single blow. The tiger, with its feline speed and jaws, seeks to dodge attacks and bite with the intention of causing serious injury. The agility of the feline clashes with the enormous strength of the bear in a brutal dance of fury and survival. Finally, the fight comes to an end. The winner will keep the juicy carrion, while the loser will retreat into the forest, although both will take with them a few wounds as a reminder of the violent contest. After surviving one of the most hostile encounters in the Himalayas, the black bears are focused on continuing their lineage. Sensing the sweet scent of pheromones that heralds the breeding season, the males abandon their solitary lives in search of a bear. When they finally locate the potential mother of their offspring, the bears are quick to show off their charms, seeking the female's favor. However, the presence of a receptive female will not be ignored by other suitors. In this duel to see who manages to extend their lineage, the males show no sense of mercy. The bears rush at each other, swiping furiously, biting, and roaring in a roar that resonates throughout the forest. When a male has been defeated, the winner approaches the female to begin a peculiar courtship. With slow, gentle gestures, the male communicates with the bear to gain her trust and dispel any trace of aggression. Copulation, which can last from a few minutes to several hours, occurs over several weeks. Once courtship is successful and copulation has taken place, a long gestation period begins, which has a peculiarity: delayed implantation. Fertilization occurs early, but the embryo does not attach to the uterine wall immediately. This pause allows the female to accumulate sufficient fat reserves for hibernation and for the development of the pups. Active gestation lasts approximately 2 months, although the entire process from fertilization to birth can extend up to 7 months. At the beginning of winter, while the mother is still hibernating in her den, she gives birth to some young. Bear cubs are tiny creatures, born with a fine coat of fur, blind and completely dependent on their mother. The litter is usually 1 to 4 puppies, although 2 are most common. For the first few weeks, the pups feed exclusively on their mother's milk, growing rapidly in the warm shelter of the den and plundering vast amounts of fat from their mother. Around 30 days old, they open their eyes for the first time, and in the following months, their curiosity leads them to explore the surroundings of the den. The cubs will remain with their mother for at least 2 years, during which time they will learn all the essential skills needed to survive in the harsh Himalayan forests, from how to forage for food to how to avoid danger. The mother, with unwavering dedication, will teach them to face the challenges of a world where only the strongest prevail. Not far from the home of the mighty black bear, in the wettest and greenest parts of the forest, resides a creature that is the antithesis of its giant neighbor. With a look that evokes tenderness, the red panda is a master of the art of survival, a shadow of the cloud forest that moves with stealthy grace through the undergrowth, where every branch is a potential hiding place. With a length exceeding 1.5 meters, this mammal has fully adapted to life among the trees. Your body is a symphony of unique characteristics. A vibrant reddish or brown coat, which blends seamlessly with the lichens and moss that cover the branches of its home, distinguishes it from other animals. This thick, dense fur not only serves as camouflage, but also provides a protective layer against the cold that permeates the mountain air. A face that contrasts in black and white, with tears running from his eyes to his snouts, gives him an almost cartoonish appearance. But the most notable feature of this animal is its long, ringed tail, measuring over 47 centimeters, which serves as a rocker as it soars through the branches of trees, as well as a blanket to keep it warm at night. Although the red panda is an active creature during twilight and night, it spends much of its life sleeping. His daily routine includes long naps lasting more than 17 hours, which he uses as an energy conservation mechanism. These resting periods, which occur both day and night, are carried out on the highest branches of trees, using their tail as a natural cushion. This preference for arboreal life keeps it safe from many carnivores, but not all. Despite its cute and harmless appearance, the red panda is capable of standing up to the cruelest predators in the Himalayas and living to tell the tale, a demonstration of its irreverence toward death. Because of the agility with which it moves between tree branches, the snow leopard, the fox, and the badger see this small survivor as a tasty meal. It is in these moments that this arboreal mammal must resort to its ingenuity to survive. At first, their strategy is simple: camouflage. Its characteristic reddish color allows it to blend in with the moss-covered trunks and lichens, going completely unnoticed. However, when cunning is not enough, this reddish creature must resort to a desperate measure to survive. When threatened or cornered, this animal rears up on its hind legs, baring its claws and making high-pitched sounds to instill fear in its opponent. This posture, although it may seem harmless, often succeeds in surprising and deterring smaller predators, giving them vital breathing room to escape. After avoiding being devoured by ferocious carnivores, the panda sets out to satisfy his own appetite. Its keen senses allow it to detect food in the darkness of the forest, easily finding the bamboo shoots that become the cornerstone of its diet. The red panda, a mammal descended from a line of carnivores, has a digestive system designed to process meat. This makes bamboo, their main food, very low in nutrition. But far from being a disadvantage, this has become a survival strategy. Bamboo is an abundant and virtually guaranteed resource in its habitat. In this way, despite its digestive limitations, it ensures a constant supply of food in an environment where other resources are scarce. This forces it to be a tireless animal, spending up to 13 hours a day feeding to consume the equivalent of a third of its body weight. With its specially adapted jaws, it crushes bamboo shoots and leaves, extracting the few nutrients they contain. In addition to bamboo, the panda also consumes fruits, roots, eggs, and small insects when presented with the opportunity, demonstrating its incredible adaptability. To ensure a constant supply of food, these small mammals tend to be extremely jealous of their domains. The social life of the tender panda is almost non-existent, not tolerating the presence of others of its species, except during mating season, when carnal interests are at stake. To keep those pesky visitors away from its domain, it uses scent glands located on the pads of its paws, marking the ground and tree trunks with a distinctive odor. They also use urine and feces to clearly mark the boundaries of their home, ensuring that other birds don't invade their space, avoiding conflict and the unnecessary waste of energy that would result from having to chase an invader away. Despite its innocent and harmless appearance, with its slow gait, this tiny creature is the true guardian of the forest. Contrasting with the red panda's diminutive size and vibrant colors, back in the highlands more than 4,000 meters above sea level, a titan emerges. In a world of snow-capped peaks and icy winds, a colossal ungulate dominates at will a corner of the Himalayas, where few creatures would even dare to approach. Weighing almost a ton, the yak is undoubtedly one of the largest and most imposing beasts in the Himalayas. Its robust physique, which can exceed 3 meters in length, is covered by a dense, thick coat, which serves as a natural shelter against the most intense cold. With its majestic antlers and night-dark fur, the yak has been personally sculpted by its creator to withstand the harsh living conditions of one of the planet's most hostile ecosystems, the high altitudes of the Himalayas. The layers of fur, which fall almost to the ground, protect their skin from temperatures that can drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius, and defend them from the blizzards that hit the mountain peaks. But fur is not its only adaptation. The body of this enormous beast has developed larger lungs and a greater number of red blood cells in its blood, allowing it to survive the lack of oxygen at high altitudes in the mountain range. But not all of these cattle live in complete solitude, bearing the brunt of the weather firsthand. The life of the yaks is divided into 2 worlds. Adult males, which are the largest and strongest, often live a solitary life, wandering the slopes with a firm and sure gait. Females, on the other hand, live in herds that can be made up of dozens of individuals, accompanied by their young males. Living in a pack is their main survival strategy. By grouping together, cattle are able to collectively defend themselves against threats, and above all, protect themselves from the cold. During the coldest nights, yaks huddle on top of each other, using their body heat to protect themselves from the frigid temperatures of the mountain range. Despite being a huge beast with imposing strength, the yak's diet is surprisingly humble. To survive in an environment where vegetation is scarce, the yak has developed a digestive system capable of processing even the toughest grass and the driest of herbs. This ungulate spends much of the day, between 8 and 9 hours, searching for food on the slopes and valleys of its home. With its powerful jaws, the yak tears apart any grass and moss it can find, chewing slowly until it extracts the few nutrients it contains. Its diet consists mainly of grass, lichens, and small plant shoots that grow in rock crevices. An adult yak can consume up to 15 kilograms of vegetation a day, an amount that, although seemingly insignificant for an animal of its size, allows it to accumulate the energy necessary to survive the cold and food shortages. Due to its impressive size, the wild yak has no natural predators in the high Himalayas. Its height and weight are a formidable defense that protects it from attacks by most carnivores. While other inhabitants of this ecosystem, such as the blue goat and the red panda, must contend with a long list of predators, the yak is the lord and master of its home, leaving carnivores with empty stomachs, unable to devour such copious prey. Threats from those inhabiting the lower reaches of the range, such as the Bengal tiger, are not nearly a concern for the isolated yak, as this imposing predator is light years away from being able to climb the heights of the Himalayas. Although the robust adults are practically invulnerable, the young are within reach of a few hunters, who will not hesitate to lay their sharp fangs on their bodies. The most feared predator by calves and young animals is the Himalayan wolf, a hungry carnivore that moves in packs and uses its cunning to separate a calf from its mother. However, the yaks will not remain immune to the attack of these ferocious canids, watching as they devour the future of the herd. When the pack detects the presence of a wolf, the adults cluster around the pups, forming a wall of antlers and fur that no predator, no matter how formidable, would dare attempt to penetrate. In addition to weathering the harsh winter, the survival of these horned lions in the high Himalayas depends largely on the strength of their herd, so protecting the young is a priority for the close-knit pack. After leaving the icy domain of the mighty yak, the great Himalayan landscape descends into a realm of lush forests and exuberant vegetation. Here, the silence of the peaks is replaced by the sounds of a new world, an ecosystem where life manifests itself in very different ways. From the shadows of the undergrowth emerges a small deer whose distinctive call has earned it a name that does it justice: the barking deer. Announcing the dominance of another of its majestic wild inhabitants. Far from the world of small deer, the water buffalo wades across the flooded plains, making its way through the dense wetlands, a colossus that has made the swamps its kingdom. With a size that is a statement of power, this enormous beast can exceed 2 meters in height and reach a weight of up to 1,200 kilograms. This colossus is a mass of pure muscle and bone, covered by thick, rough, dark gray skin, which protects it from the harsh sun and insect bites, which, in contrast to the heights of the mountains, mercilessly dominate these low tropical altitudes. Although its enormous size is truly surprising, when you see this colossus, its imposing horns steal all the attention. These extend majestically along the head, reaching a wingspan of up to 2.5 meters. Their curved, sharp horns are not just an ornament, but deadly weapons and status symbols within their pack. But they are not called water buffalo for nothing, as the life of this robust bovine is intrinsically linked to the vital liquid. Their broad, flexible hooves are perfectly adapted for moving through the slippery, muddy terrain of their home. With its powerful legs, the water buffalo is able to submerge itself in the mud to cool its body, a ritual that protects it from the heat of the sun and frees it from parasites and insects. Unlike species like the black bear or the Labrador deer, which live a solitary life, this ungulate is a social beast that enjoys life in herds. These groups, which can be made up of dozens of individuals, are the basis of their survival in an ecosystem as hostile as the Himalayas. Of course, in order for there to be at least some semblance of order in a large group of horned giants, the lives of these colossi are governed by a strict social hierarchy, headed by a dominant male, a leader who demonstrates his strength and power through his imposing horns. The herd, moving in unison, is a collective force that protects the youngest and weakest, ensuring the survival of the flock. Despite its imposing size and brute strength, the water buffalo's diet is surprisingly modest. This tireless herbivore spends much of the day feeding in tall grass fields and wetlands, consuming the equivalent of 3% of its body weight per day, about 30 kilograms of forage. Of course, to satisfy such a demand for food, the buffalo can spend long hours tirelessly searching for food, with truly admirable patience. With its powerful snout, this plains dweller tears and chews the grass and aquatic plants in its path. Its diet consists primarily of grass and other plants that grow in marshy terrain, a diet that allows it to maintain its enormous size and accumulate the energy reserves it needs to survive. By feeding, water buffalo play a vital role in their ecosystem. Their constant grazing and mud bathing help keep the plains clear, creating open spaces that other species use for hunting and feeding. Wetlands are a world of constant change, and this ungulate, with its imposing presence, is one of the main forces transforming it. The same robustness that allows it to navigate its way through wetlands keeps this bovine animal off the radar of most of the bloodthirsty predators of this dangerous ecosystem. However, there are some carnivores that might dare to take on the feat of killing one of these giants. At these altitudes in the mountain range, packs of wild dogs, such as dholes, lurk at the edges of the plains, looking for an opportunity to attack a weakened member of the herd. When the dholes try to separate a buffalo from the group, the herd will not be very happy that these tiny dogs want to kill one of their own, and will respond with an organized defense. The adults, with their massive bodies, form a protective circle around the younger ones, forming an impenetrable wall of horns and muscle, which becomes almost an impregnable barrier for the dogs, who, more often than not, must give up on prey that, perhaps in another reality, would mean not having to hunt again for weeks. In addition to building this impenetrable fortress with their bodies, with their heads lowered and their horns pointed outward, the buffalo launch warning charges, snorting and pawing the ground in a show of power that deters even the boldest predators. Although this collective defense manages to intimidate any carnivore that dares to see these mammals as prey, there is one voracious hunter capable of making all wild species tremble throughout the Himalayan ecosystem. Any lone buffalo can be surprised in the blink of an eye by a stealthy feline moving with extreme subtlety through the vegetation. This predator, with its agility, ferocity, and cunning, has earned a place at the top of the food chain and has become the main enemy of beasts as formidable as the water buffalo. Whether in the dense jungles, mangrove forests, or riparian grasslands of the Himalayas, the roar of a feline is a promise of power and ferocity. Moving like a ghost through the dense vegetation, the Bengal tiger stands as the dictator of the entire food chain of this unforgiving animal kingdom. Weighing nearly 300 kilograms and measuring over 3.5 meters from head to tail, this feline is the perfect representation of an apex predator. His body is a masterpiece of the creator, a precision machine composed of muscle and sinew that moves with a feline elegance that belies its massive size. The fur, dyed a vibrant orange, is adorned with a pattern of vertical black stripes, a natural work of art that serves as perfect camouflage among the dense vegetation and shadows of the undergrowth. Their sturdy legs, equipped with powerful retractable claws that can measure up to 10 centimeters in length, are deadly tools designed to grab and tear their prey with unprecedented strength. Its gait is stealthy, creating a promise of death that glides by with barely a sound, thanks to the soft pads on its paws that cushion each step. But this hunter's most fearsome tool is its jaws, armed with impressive fangs that can reach 7.5 centimeters in length. These ivory daggers are capable of breaking bones with a single bite, delivering a fatal blow that leaves no escape. The life of this predator is solitary and territorial, an existence governed by the instinct of survival, and in which taking lives, rather than being acts of savagery, becomes a routine task. The Bengal tiger is a master hunter, a force of nature whose strategy relies on stealth and lightning speed. With its keen senses capable of detecting the slightest movement in the darkness of the night, the feline stalks its prey, waiting for the exact moment to attack. Its preferred victims in the lower Himalayan realms include a variety of ungulates, such as sambar deer, chital deer, and wild boar, animals that fall under its sway with alarming frequency, and on which the food chain has placed the unenviable task of satiating the appetite of this massive killer. Although, with its unmatched predatory skills, it could simply pounce on its prey and probably have an astonishing success rate, the tiger is a bloodthirsty and calculating hunter, planning every move in its kills. Approaching its victim with supernatural discretion, It hides in the undergrowth until it is at a critical distance. Aware that even the slightest noise could reveal its position, the feline moves with a subtlety similar to that of the wind. Then, with a burst of speed, it launches into a frontal or lateral attack, knocking down its prey with the strength of its body and claws. The fatal bite reaches the neck, suffocating the victim in a matter of seconds, a brutal end for those who cross its path. However, when the prey is a colossus like the water buffalo or the gaur, the tiger's strategy changes. In these cases, the hunter may opt for a water ambush, waiting patiently at crossing points or watering holes. There, the hunter takes advantage of his amazing swimming ability and immense strength, subduing his prey in the element with which he is most familiar. The power of this feline is such that it is capable of dragging the body of an opponent that can weigh up to 300 kilograms, demonstrating its ability to dominate even the largest beasts in the ecosystem. Although their prey list is vast, there are some species that are beyond their reach. The inhabitants of the highest peaks of the Himalayas, such as the wild yak and the snow leopard, live in a realm where the Bengal tiger rarely ventures, as the extreme conditions and lack of dense vegetation are not conducive to it. The life of a tiger, although solitary, is not without interactions. Encounters between males, especially during mating season or in disputes over territory, are duels of unprecedented ferocity. With roars that shake the earth and swipes that leave deep wounds, the males engage in brutal battles where only the strongest prevail. It all begins when one of the felines crosses the borders of a foreign territory in what is a clear demonstration of irreverence. Upon detecting the presence of an invader on its land, the resident tiger will confront the intruder, asserting its right to ownership of the territory, while in many cases, intimidating postures with bristling bodies and powerful roars resolve most of these altercations. Sometimes the encounter escalates, with both predators engaging in a bloody fight, where each blow is thrown without the slightest sense of mercy. Victory guarantees the right to procreate and maintain control over a vast territory, which can extend for hundreds of kilometers. Although such a coveted prize is at stake, the truth is that these duels almost always end with one of the tigers weakening and submitting to its adversary, in an attempt to preserve its life, with very few cases in which one of the felines ends up perishing. As an apex predator, the untamed Bengal tiger doesn't have to worry about another carnivore trying to get its claws on it. With its unmatched hunting skills and imposing physical prowess, crossing this beast's path is certain death, positioning it as the ruler of this vast animal empire called the Himalayas. Although no sane wild species would even dare to consider seeing the ferocious Bengal tiger as prey, unfortunately, there is a ruthless hunter capable of killing dozens of these felines each year. In the lower reaches of the Himalayas, the relentless advance of human activities has led to the fragmentation of the Bengal tiger's habitat. Forest clearing, infrastructure development, and intensive agriculture are shrinking the feline's range, forcing it into dangerous proximity to villages, leading to direct conflict with human settlements, where the predator almost always bears the brunt. Added to this is poaching, driven by the illegal demand for their skins and bones for traditional medicine, which decimates their populations, pushing this majestic creature to the brink of extinction. Unfortunately, the case of this predator is not an exception, but rather the rule. This pattern of threats is repeated throughout the mountain range. The wild yak, a large ungulate, has seen its highland pastures invaded by domestic livestock, generating competition for scarce resources that puts the beast's survival at risk. The Himalayan black bear, another of those imposing creatures that inhabit this isolated ecosystem, sees its home shrinking, forced to search for food on farms, leading to clashes with humans that often end in the bear's death. In the cloud forests, the fate of the tiny red panda hangs in the balance, as deforestation for logging and agriculture leaves it without its food source, bamboo, a plant that, ironically, is a survival strategy for it. But despite these challenges, the future of wild species in the Himalayas is not written. There are cases that demonstrate that coexistence is possible, a reminder that hope still exists for majestic wild species. An example of this is the indomitable snow leopard, a predator that, thanks to the efforts of local communities and the awareness that its preservation is vital, has managed to recover its populations. In recent decades, the number of these white cats in some Himalayan countries has increased significantly, with the estimated population growing from 4,000 to over 7,000. This demonstrates that, with tangible changes, this discouraging trend can be reversed. Despite the threats, the future of Himalayan wildlife is in our hands. With everyone's commitment, we can ensure that their roars, snorts, and barks continue to resonate throughout the valleys and peaks of this majestic mountain range. Have you been impressed by the stories of savagery, ferocity, and irreverence against the extinction of the wild creatures of the Himalayas? So don't leave without giving us your like. Also remember to comment on which wild species was your favorite. If you'd like to stay tuned for our next videos, you can subscribe and click the notification bell. And to help more people learn about these majestic wild species and their struggle for survival, we invite you to share the video with your friends. Without further ado, we'll see you next time with more stories of imposing bears, voracious tigers, and above all, stories of wild lives.